you study every day. You really put effort in what you do when you're learning Portuguese, right? But why are you still making the same mistakes over and over again, no matter how many times you have heard the explanation? Like you think that you have done everything to get better in Portuguese, right? Because you want to be fluent, you want to have a conversation with the Portuguese, make friendships, all of this, right? So, olá, I'm Sara. I'm Portuguese teacher, and today we are going to talk about this topic. You study every day, so why are you still making these mistakes? Maybe you have been doing some kind of app, or you have your textbook, and you, in your knowledge, based on your knowledge, you are doing everything that you are supposed to do to not make the same mistakes, right? But something is not working because you are keep doing the same mistakes. So you know that what you're trying is not working because you don't get results that you expect. So let's say that you used an app. You did the exercises. You know the rule. You understand the logic, everything. But when you're speaking, you make the same mistake again. Why? Well, the answer might change how you learn Portuguese forever. Yes, so stick here with me because we are going to talk about it now. So the first thing that you need to be aware of is that knowing is different from using. What is knowing? What is using? You think that you know something just because you understood the theory or because you can actually use it when you practice. Right? So that's the point here. Apps and videos help you recognize patterns, but don't train active use. Knowing a grammar rule is different from using it automatically while speaking, and passive memory is weaker than active recall. You know, when you are in a conversation, you cannot think, he said this, so I should say that. And this is the past tense. Oh, now he is asking me about the future. Now I should use the future tense. But there are two kinds of future in Portuguese. Which one should I use here? Should I be more informal or informal? This doesn't work. If you are thinking about this, you burn yourself and you won't be able to speak, right? So what do you need to do? You need to practice. You need to be able to speak no matter how many mistakes you make, okay? Because if you don't practice, then you don't make mistakes. And if you don't make mistakes, then you cannot correct your Portuguese. And you are you keep being, you are still in the A1 or A2, you are still a basic student because you cannot move forward. You can learn more and improve your speaking, your other skills in Portuguese because you don't practice them. If you don't do it, if you don't practice, you won't improve, and you will always be in this situation where you struggle and then you get nervous and then you feel that they are going to judge you because of your mistakes. That's complicated, right? So the one thing to know, for example, one thing is to know that if you want to say in Portuguese, in the supermarket, we actually put in the together. Em, o. And we put em, o together in just one word, no. One thing is understanding that in Portuguese we don't say in the supermarket because we put these two prepositions together. Other thing is to be able to say no supermercado without hesitating in middle of the conversation. Okay, you automatically say it. So when you are using the language, you don't need to think about the rule. You don't need to remember the rule in that moment. Knowing the rules is just for your understanding. Learning has different stages. And when you first come across a new thing, a new word, a new grammar topic, you need to understand, for example, okay, this grammar rule corresponds in English to this, and it means this, and it works this way, okay, and you understand the rule. Okay, now that's one step. The next step is to be able to use it, and while you are using it, you don't need to think about why you are using the language that way. Okay, so when you learn, when you study, you learn that we put these two words together in Portuguese, the two prepositions together, and we say no supermercado. But while you are using the language, you don't need to think about this. Okay, you just say no supermercado, and you need to have enough input, listening a lot, watching a lot, reading a lot. So when the moment comes that you need to use the language, you know that it's no supermercado. It comes natural. It's like instinct. But you need to build your instinct first with a lot of input, which is, as I said, listening things, watching things, reading things. Okay, that's how you build your internal library of Portuguese. The same way that you have your own library inside of you of English and other languages that you might speak. Okay, so always remember this. If you say, oh, I've seen this before, I've studied this before, I've learned this before. If you studied, if you saw this, does this mean that you actually know? Does this mean that you actually can use? If it's even with mistakes, but can you use it first to get your message across, to be understood by others? That's the first thing. And then, can I use it correctly? Well, with the no mistakes. So really think about this. You have studied, but it doesn't mean that you learned it. Studying is different from learning. Okay? If you actually learned it, then you should be able to use it. Okay? It's not because the teacher taught that you are going to know. Teachers teach, but you need to learn. Okay? I think that probably is going to sound very obvious, but some people believe that if the teacher taught, or for example me as a Portuguese teacher, if I told my student before, if I taught him or I taught her before this, that means that she knows. Not necessarily. There are different factors. Okay? So you may understand all the theory, all the logic, everything. But what will show you, prove to you that you really know that, is when you practice, when you speak, and when you write. That's when you are going to know if you really know it. It's a task for yourself. So, if you are too afraid of speaking, too afraid of engaging in a conversation for whatever reason, you will never know if you really know, because it's on practice. You don't put it to test. Okay, I learned this. Let me see if I really learned, if I really can use it. All right? Another point that is very important is the illusion of passive competence. Many learners feel like they're improving, but they're not taking any real risks. For example, it is connected with what I just said. Without enough output, can be speaking and reading, mistakes don't show up in real context. So you don't truly know how much do you know, what do you know, what you don't know, what kind of things that you can use. Okay, I can use this grammar point, I can say this, but I say this with some mistakes. Other things you realize, oh, I'm using this, let's say, vocabulary, and you realize, oh, okay, this I am saying correctly, and I don't need to worry about reviewing this because it's established that I've been using this correctly for a long time. So, okay, I don't need to worry about this. Let me focus more on the things that I'm making mistakes over and over again. Okay? But if you don't speak, if you don't use the language, you will never be able to do this. Corrections may only stick when you're actively trying and failing. Trying and failing. Trying and failing. You need this for your process of learning. Okay? If someone asks you how to say pen in Portuguese, and you know how to say bottle in Portuguese, and you know how to say laptop in Portuguese, and you know, but you cannot use these words in a sentence, how are these words going to be useful for you if you do know how to use them? Make sense? Let me know in the comments if it does. You need to have the tools like grammar and vocabulary, but you also need to know how to use these tools. Okay? That's what we should learn how to use in class, not just, for example, of course, you can search on Google for a list of words that you want, most frequent words in Portuguese. Okay, but be aware that you should be focused more on sentences and the ones that are more meaningful for you. And eventually, when you come across a word and or a sentence in Portuguese, can be from your teacher, from your textbook, etc. Look at that sentence and that word and think, how can I adapt this to my reality? How can I adapt this so in the future I can use it? For example, if you see a text on your, let's say, textbook, you see someone talking about their favorite food, and you want to talk about your favorite food because this is a very important topic to you, then you can use the same kind of sentences for you to express what is your favorite food. You, of course, you're not going to have the same ones, but you can adapt what the other person is saying to you. Okay, so you know how to talk about your favorite food if you have seen a text or someone talking about it. Okay, so not only learn texts, learn with videos, learn, of course you should, right, always, but every time you use any kind of material for you to learn Portuguese, one of the most important things that you can do, very useful to you, is how can I adapt this to my life? Okay, I want to talk about what I do when I have free time. I want to talk about hobbies. How people talk about this topic in Portuguese? What kind of sentence they used to use? Is there any kind of specific expression that they do use? Can I use that? Okay, so you adapt to your reality, because if you are you and if you want to talk about your hobbies, then you need to know how to do it. Okay, you are going to learn with a text, someone is talking about their hobbies, but when it is your turn to talk about your hobbies, you need to personalize that, right? I think that makes sense, right? Okay, something else. Okay, we already talked about the corrections, and that the correction only stick when you are actively trying and failing. Very important. And let me give you one more example. It's like watching soccer or football, if you prefer, soccer tutorials without ever kicking the ball. Or another very common example that I used to use, like you want to swim, you don't know how to swim, someone can tell you, oh, do this, do that. You can read a book about swimming, or you can read a book about riding a bike, but there's only one way that you can say, yes, I know how to swim, yes, I know how to play soccer, yes, I know how to ride a bicycle, is if you actually do it. And when you risk doing it, for example, riding a bicycle, you never did that before, you are practicing, you are learning how to ride a bicycle, how many times do you think you're going to fall? Do you think it's realistic, someone trying to ride a bicycle for the first time and think, oh, I'm not going to fall, I'm going to do everything that I should do, everything possible, because I don't want to fall? Of course, we don't want to, but if we are willing to learn, we need to be willing to make risks, and sometimes we do fall. Sometimes we do make mistakes. So think about learning Portuguese as riding a bicycle. If you're just starting, probably you will fall many times. So Portuguese is the same. You will make mistakes, a lot of mistakes. But as I said in other videos on YouTube and Instagram lives, mistakes are not bad. Mistakes are opportunities to, oh, I did a mistake, so I need to review this. All right. Mistakes are just feedback. No negative feelings attached to them. We don't need to. All right. And another topic is the persistent mistake loop. For example, the app teaches you something, and then you repeat it, but you don't use it in real speech, in real life. So if you don't use it, it's something that you should change. Because if you don't actually use it, you don't practice, when you try to have a conversation, you will make more mistakes. And if you make a mistake, probably you'll get frustrated. And if you get frustrated and then you avoid it because you feel frustrated because of the mistake, because you think people are judging you and they're thinking bad things about you. And because you avoid this, the mistakes stays. Not just that mistake, but all kinds of mistakes. Not just one mistake in particular. Let's say the how to say our age is different from English and Portuguese. We use a different verb. We say in Portuguese, eu tenho, I have, blah blah blah, years old. I have years old. That's how we say in Portuguese. So it's different. And if you don't practice to make mistakes, then the mistakes will stay. And we will stay in that vibe, in that environment, in that level where you're always afraid of speaking, and it will reinforce your negative feelings if you don't do it. Okay, so you need to speak to make mistakes if you are afraid of mistakes, in order to remove them, because you learn when you make mistakes. So if you make mistakes, you learn, and then you make less mistakes, and you move from A1 level, A2 level, then you move to B1 level, and in these different levels, these are different challenges, different milestones. You will do different kind of mistakes, and while you're learning, you are going to make better mistakes according to your language level, and that's completely normal. All right, you are not fixing the mistake because no one corrected you when it mattered. It's okay. It's okay. I lead by example. We should lead by example, right? Mattered most. You're not fixing the mistake because no one corrected you when it mattered most. So if someone corrects you, ideally kind, not, oh, you did a mistake, you are dumb. Not like this, of course, right? So when you are corrected, you can say, oh, yes, I did this mistake. I have noticed. Thank you for letting me know. Let me review this. Maybe I should do more sentences, practice with more sentences using this thing, and I will improve. Okay? And talking about this, what actually works? 3 things. The first, and you can guess by everything that I've said so far, which is, first, speak actively. Say sentences out loud that include your common mistakes. Out loud when you are just you, forever, not forever alone, but you yourself. When you are alone by yourself, you can speak out loud. You can look at a mirror and like a little role play, like the theater. It really helps. Of course, you can speak actively with others, maybe first with someone that you trust, maybe your Portuguese friend, and after this you can try having a conversation with a stranger. Could be just ordering cafe, or ordering anything, going to a store, like you ordering and you are talking with a stranger, or other conversations more complex. Okay. And second, self-correct. Record yourself and listen for patterns. One thing is, you are speaking Portuguese and you are listening and listening to yourself at the same time. This is what usually happens. But when you record yourself and you listen to it, please try it, because it will reveal so many things that you didn't ever notice. For example, in my case, the first time I ever heard my voice recorded, it was very shocking, because I used to be bullied at school because of my voice, and I always said, no, my voice is not like that, my voice is normal. But when I listened to my voice the first time, I needed to admit, yes, my voice is like this. My voice is like a child's. It's my natural voice, but while I'm speaking, while I'm talking, it doesn't sound like this. It sounds normal. And the same goes for our mannerisms, the way we speak, the vocabulary that we use. Probably you notice that some people have the tendency to use one specific expression a lot, and probably that same person doesn't know. They didn't realize that they have this tendency to use one specific expression a lot. I know a guy, and almost like everything that he says, in 4 or 5 sentences, he says nesse sentido in Portuguese, because he's Portuguese. In that sense, nesse sentido. And I've been listening to him so many times that I started to say this expression more often. Okay, when you listen to yourself, you realize a lot of things about you. And for example, YouTubers and Instagrammers and people that record themselves, sometimes they don't want to hear them and watch them because it feels weird. It feels like a different person, because you are looking at yourself, you're listening to yourself, and you know that it's you, but it looks like a third person or a second person. But it's very revealing when you listen to yourself and you watch yourself speaking foreign language. It will give you so many clues about what you're doing right and what you still need to improve. For example, right now I'm speaking English. It's not my first language, But for example, for my videos, sometimes I really need to rewatch them because I need to edit them. Although I don't like to do a lot of edit, I want this to be natural, like a real conversation. But when I go back and I listen to me, sometimes I'm listening to me speaking English and I spot, that's a mistake. Of course, I know how to say that, but I said it wrong. I did a mistake anyway. But when I listen to what am I saying in English, I can spot the mistakes that I did. I'm like, oh, Sara, of course you know that. But it happens in all levels of our language learning. And the third, expose yourself to risk. Speak to natives even if you make mistakes. So it means that you need to train, to exercise, to practice your courage muscle. I know that it's difficult if you are shy, if you have social anxiety. But in my experience, because I used to be shy and I had social anxiety when I was a teenager, what I did was I start thinking this way. If I sound weird, awkward, whatever, then I have an excuse. And the excuse is, oh, I'm speaking a foreign language, or I'm trying to speak a foreign language. So if I feel awkward, if I feel that I don't fit sociably speaking, there's a reason that makes sense, and people will, oh, that's okay. They will think that I'm normal because I'm speaking a foreign language. So if I seem awkward, it's because I'm speaking foreign language. They won't think that, oh, she's weirdo because she has social anxiety or something like this. Okay, so I changed that. So instead of an excuse not to talk to people, I found myself in this situation. If I speak to a Portuguese, because I'm a Portuguese, they will expect me to be in a certain way because I'm Portuguese, speaking with Portuguese. But if I'm Portuguese, I'm speaking English with a foreigner that speaks English as a native or not. Maybe the person doesn't know a lot about Portuguese culture and Portuguese social standards, how Portuguese are supposed to behave, are supposed to be. Then they won't put that much pressure, and they will give me a discount, as we say in Portuguese, dar desconto. They won't expect so many things from me if I am in this situation. So if I am awkward, if I'm weird, strange, if I do something or say something that doesn't make sense to them, they know that I'm a foreigner, I'm speaking English, and that's why, and they won't judge me that bad. Okay, of course you may not agree with me. It actually doesn't matter if what I just said it's true or not. In the past, I believed in this, and this was what helped me move forward. Okay, and eventually I'm here online, and I'm able to make videos, although I had social anxiety in the past. Okay, so a little bit about me, and I hope this story helps you rethink about how you are doing things. How do you see yourself? How you see yourself in the context with different Portuguese native speakers? And if you struggled like I struggled, maybe you can use this way of thinking to help you actually take the risk and engage in a conversation, starting conversation, answering, replying when the Portuguese talk to you. Okay, and of course the first times are going to be more complicated, but you need to keep going because that's the only way it gets better. It gets better when you practice. Okay, To stop repeating mistakes, you need to use the language in real situations. So if anything that I said today, if anything makes sense to you, you forget absolutely everything that I said today. If you just remember this sentence, I believe it will help you a lot. I'm going to repeat. To stop repeating mistakes, you need to use the language in real situations and taking the risk. Okay? As people used to say, no pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. In Portuguese is quem não arrisca, não petisca. It's not exactly the same, but in this case we can use these two expressions they mean the same. Quem não arrisca, não petisca. No pain, no gain. And to have a conclusion here, I mentioned apps in the beginning. Yes, apps help you learn, but only real conversations can fix your persistent mistakes. Okay, if the mistakes are persistent, you need to be persistent as well. You keep on practicing, and if you see that because sometimes we run away from situations, you're thinking, oh, I want to say this, but then you say, no, I'm not going to say this because I think I'm going to make a mistake. I'm not sure how to say this, so I will say something else. We run away from what we actually want to say in the conversation. So don't run away. Go forward and do it. And make the mistake. I just remember an expression in Portuguese, which is agarrar o touro pelos cornos. It's an expression, when we want to say, oh, you need to face the problem ahead. You need to face the problem. Go for it. In Portuguese, we have this expression, agarrar o touro pelos cornos. So you need to hold the bull, like the bull goes like this, and you need to hold it, okay? Agarrar o touro pelos cornos. You hold the bull pelos cornos, and you face the problem, and you face the issue, and you face wherever you need to face. You face the fear of making mistakes. You face the fear of being judged. That, I think, it's a very good expression for the situation. You need to face it. And if you're asking yourself, Sara, that's great, everything that you just said is great, but I don't have opportunities to practice. I don't know any Portuguese speaker. I'm not in Portugal, or I am, but I don't have friends in Portugal. I don't have someone to practice with, and I don't know where I can go to practice and feel safe, where I can put into practice what you just said. Well, if you are interested in conversation clubs, I have conversation clubs for different levels, and in these conversation clubs, the goal is to help you practice your speaking and your conversational skills in a light way, fun way. You don't feel pressure, and you have the opportunity to speak, to make mistakes. Sometimes we feel a little bit discouraged because we think that the native speaker is going to judge us or have any kind of negative feeling or thoughts. Well, that's not the case. I will be there, very happy and very grateful to have this privilege to help you improve your Portuguese skills. Only good vibes. Actually, I have a bottle saying good vibes. I will show you later. And I'll be happy to show you how is Portuguese, how you can learn more Portuguese and practice. And I'll be there to make you laugh, to make you feel different kinds of good emotions with the exercises that we use to practice conversation. Sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's a photo. Of course, nothing boring, but something that will make you feel something. Oh, Sara, that video, that's very interesting. Oh, that's intriguing. And you will be you want to participate in class and have a normal conversation, like a conversation that you would have with your friends. That's my goal, that you have a safe, a good environment to practice, and that we have an interesting conversation about something funny, about something that we like about Portuguese food, about Portuguese life, about Portuguese stereotypes, for example. This was one of the topics in a recent session that we have in our ESTOU conversation club. So if you want to know more, if you want to talk with me, below in the description you have my WhatsApp, and you can send me a message. You can explain what you want, tell me your story with Portuguese, and I will help you the best way I can. Okay? And if this video helped you, like, subscribe, and share with someone who really needs to hear this. Ok? Muito obrigada por estares aqui comigo, obrigada pelo teu tempo e vemo-nos no próximo vídeo. See you in next video. Tchau, tchau!